Yo, JD here, Limitless, and we are back with some more league racing, and this is for TSRL, which I do on Fridays at 8 p.m, so Mondays and Fridays, 8 p.m. UK time. I do league racing live on my YouTube, so still stay tuned for that. And as you can see, it's a wet race, and I've had quite a few wet experiences. Probably come out absolutely horrific when I just said that, but some wet experiences playing F1 2019, meaning that it's always been in unfavourable conditions for me. And as you saw from my Mexico video that I did in this league, I struggled quite a bit in the wet conditions, and I've been doing I wouldn't say a fair amount of practice. I just said I've just prepared a little bit more for the wet than I have done in previous races, which is next to none. And you can see in this first part of qualifying, this is a full qualifying format in this league, which is what attracted me to it in the first place. Pretty much exactly the same as real F1, so whatever you complete your Q2 time, which I'm just about to complete here, is the tyre that you will be starting on. But since it's wet, it doesn't actually matter. You don't need to be going on the medium tyres because you will be on wet tyres anyway. And coming into this track, as you may have saw from my live stream, I was really not confident going to this. I just really struggle around this track, and there's a lot of tracks where I feel very good at, but this one is not one of them. I felt very good in the first sector, but the sector 2 and 3, particularly sector 2, just had no pace or anything at all. But so far during this qualifying, I haven't been hit my max potential or anything at all, but I've been doing just what I need to do just to get through to the next part of the qualifying, and that's exactly what I've done here. I haven't been the quickest, but been up there. The pace is still very good, and I still believe in a race, I think it's going to be no problem really at all. But the qualifying, I wasn't feeling good, wasn't feeling confident whatsoever. So now this is the start. Well, I think this is my first lap I did in the Q3. So going into the final 10 shootout, and yeah, this track, it's just weird. I just didn't feel, I don't know, yeah, I just didn't feel I can hook up a lap at all. I just didn't know where to push the limits, which is something I always say when I'm not confident, but I just really couldn't. I just didn't feel at home with this at all. And sometimes you just have that. Some weeks you drive better than you do in other weeks, and this week I didn't think I was driving badly. I just didn't feel good. But this first sector was always a very good first sector for me. So braking very, very hard, completely in a straight line, spotting a blind apex, but I usually got that most of the time. You can see going green on the delta by quite a considerable margin, and we are currently in P2 as well. So go for this first sector, complete fat out for the right, and then a little bit downshift for the left, and then fifth gear through here, little downshift on the right. There's a little bit overcast, normally there's a shadow there that actually gives you a little bit of reference point. This corner, very easy to get an invalidation, so stay in the track nicely. I'd say it wasn't super aggressive or perfect, but just what I needed to do, and that's really what I've been doing so far, as I said, in this qualifying session. Got quite a nice run coming onto straight, and we actually are a fair amount up on the time that I've done so far, so I was quite surprised with that. It didn't feel like a particularly committed lap at all. It just felt tidy, just neat and tidy is the best way I could describe it. Going through this middle sector, we actually gone purple, so we actually are up on the provisional pole time, and I knew I could make up quite a bit of time in the last sector. This corner I was really struggling with, but this time managed to get it. Probably a 7 out of 10 I'd give myself for that corner there, and definitely so a little bit more time to find, but we are over 2 temps up. Evansy improves, he does a 30.9. This corner left a little bit of time on the entry and the exit through there, but I knew I had to get a good one here, and not a great last corner running onto the curb, which is something you don't want to do. I thought I got pole, as you can see by my reaction, but I didn't. No. I was fractionally off pole position by Callum, who I'm not sure if he's a new person in this league or anything at all, but I know he's got a couple of world records in this game, so he's clearly got some pace. And 30.7, I was actually pleasantly surprised, actually really quite happy about that, to be honest. I wasn't expecting that at all, so actually exceeded my expectations. And as you saw from my previous racing video, it's so important to start near the front because it gets you away from danger or any potential damage. But as we saw at the start of this video as well, it is a intermediate, a light rain race pretty much for the entire race. That's what it says on the forecast anyway. So I wanted some wet practice, I've got some wet practice, and now I'm going to have to put that in. And yeah, being honest, I still wasn't confident at all. I just didn't feel good, particularly on this track. I would find this probably being a nightmare for this. So just trying to get a good start. So 5 lights here as they go out. Getting a pretty good start. That was a really good start. Better than I did in Mexico. Much better. Trying to spot the breaking point where I don't really know where it is. Going in quite deep. Running on that curb. So it gives you really poor traction if you run for that curb. But it's so crucial to stay in the lead. And that's why I was just giving it some to try and stay in the lead. Because if I can just stay in the lead in these conditions, even if I'm quite poor and I don't feel good, it's going to be quite difficult for someone to overtake me from behind. It would need a pretty big error, pretty big loss of traction for them to overtake me, because there's no DRS in these conditions. DRS is disabled. It's only allowed in dry conditions. So perfect start really right now, and I was just trying to just convince myself that it would be fine, but straight away, you know, you can't really tell by how I look or anything at all, but I wasn't feeling good at this point. I just knew it wouldn't be enough. I really needed to step on it, and I got some very quick people in this league, such as Hawks, Callum, Evansy. You've got some very quick people around here who've been doing a lot of practice as well. So, you know, almost lost the car actually already going to it, and this is just into the unknown at the moment. I'm the first car going into these conditions, which, you know, it's a good thing that I'm leading the race, but also a bad thing because I have no reference of where to brake or anything at all. It's all me completely deciding it. So right now I was just saying to myself, just try and, you know, just make sure you don't get past and just try and build in it from lap by lap. And yeah, that's literally what I was trying to do. You can see just being very cautious, trying not to get a warning as well, because it's very easy to pick up a track invalidation. Wasn't confident enough to go onto the curb, which typically will gain you quite a bit of time on the exit if you use all the track once turning in. You can see the gap is about half a second, so he's in no threats of overtaking me. And so far, really, honestly, so good here. But skipping on to about the middle of lap 3, we've actually pulled away a little bit from the guy in third. So you can see, but starting to struggle. I really was struggling on the brakes, and it's just the brakes with the load cell. It's so hard. Going through this corner, first gear, going on the throttle. I've actually spun round and gone onto the grass. Lost 1 position, lost 2 positions, almost losing 3 positions as well. And I wouldn't even say that's just a lapse in concentration. That was just, I just didn't expect the car to do that until once the car goes in these conditions. It is so hard to recover it. And like I said in Singapore for my WR race, you know, the face cam doesn't really do it justice or anything. I was fuming with myself inside, absolutely fuming with myself. But the difference is, at Singapore, I knew I was very quick around there. Around here, I don't feel quick at all. I feel really under pressure, really out of my comfort zone. And Evansy is going to have a little bit of a look down the inside as well, which doesn't put me offline. And now I just need to just regain my focus. Because Hawks in the lead, he's actually getting a little bit of a gap now. We're skipping on to about middle of lap 4. He's actually got a little bit of a gap, and Callum has actually gone out wide. So this is potentially an opportunity for me to get past, and it's so important that I get past him. So I'm going to dip my car on the inside. He has to give me some room, and I need to get past him going to this corner. So going in deep, he gives me plenty of room. He gives me an acre of room on the inside. He's very generous doing that. And we managed to get the position, but he gets the slipstream on me. And Hawks, this is just allowing him, look at the gap he's got. He's got an absolutely huge gap. We need to stop fighting here because I want to win this race. And going into this left-hander, he tries to go around the outside, but I'm almost losing the car once again. I was just very much on traction and on brakes, just everything pretty much. I just had no confidence, and take a shot every time I say confidence, because that's probably a word you'll be hearing a lot of this video. I've actually been hit on the rear as well, and I don't know who that was by. I think that was by Callum. I don't think he intentionally meant to do that, and very lucky to not actually completely spin round. But look at the gap that Hawks has got now. That must be at least 3 seconds. We're about to see it going across the line now, and you know, he's got some good pace. I really don't feel good at this point, and the gap is about 3.9 seconds if I can read that correctly. So that is a big gap to close down. And even if I do close it down, which I didn't think I would be doing at this stage of the race because I'm under quite a bit of pressure, it's a case of actually overtaking him. But skipping on towards the end of lap 8 now, we've actually pulled away a little bit behind, and we've slowly, I started to feel just a little bit better coming into this race, and we actually set the quickest lap because he was pulling away. He was pulling away for a good 3 or 4 laps, but this is the first time that I've actually managed to close in the gap on him. And in league racing, I can't stress enough of how important it is to just get inside people's heads and just that mental game. And so he sets the fastest lap, I respond almost immediately, and looking at that gap, I need to chip away at it, because if I just get that momentum building, if someone's actually catching you, it's almost feels almost impossible for you to kind of break that curse. But the next lap, bit inconsistent, and yet the gap has actually gone up again. So right now, he's the quicker man. He's the quicker driver at this point in the race. And I knew I needed to keep on doing those kind of laps to have any chance at all. But I'm actually going to go into the pits, because there's no way that Inters can do a full 50% race pretty much almost on any track other than Russia. It's the only track that can really do it on. So I decided to pit early and go for an undercut, try and force his hand into the strategy. And this is something I don't do too often. Normally, I'm actually reacting to someone else rather than be proactive. And I need to do this because I need to close that gap down. And if I could get within 3 or so seconds and then start to chip away at him, that might put a little bit more pressure on him. That's what I need to do at this stage in the race, because it's just not quick enough. It's just not good enough at this point. And I was saying before, you need that momentum to swing in your favour by catching people, because you just get more confidence. It puts them under more pressure. They start to tense up a little bit as well. It forces them into a little bit more errors, and that's what I need right now. I need to up my game. I need to step up another level. And you can see, going on the curb this time, but still not confident. But I knew I had to do it. I had to extract everything I could out of it. And we've actually gone double purple in this last sector. So new tyres are working pretty nicely. Hawks has actually responded on the very next lap. And let's see what the gap was. It was about 4.4 seconds, I believe, before coming into the pits. And we've got a big gap behind. KJ Gamer about 8 or 9 seconds behind. And Zetex actually sets the fastest lap. And we're going to stay on board of this lap to see how much we close in. And now I just... You always drive better when you have nothing really to lose, because all I want to do is win this race. You can see the gap is about 3.1 seconds, so we have gained 1 and a bit seconds, about 1.3 seconds through the undercut, so quite a sizable margin. But he has 1 lap fresher tyres, and in these conditions, in the wet, that is actually quite significant, actually more so than the dry in my opinion on some occasions. So if I need to win this race, if I'm going to have any chance of winning this race, I'm going to need to start closing in him very quickly indeed. There's no threat from behind, and being honest, in this league I joined quite late in the season. All I want to do is just win races, just do the best I can, and first is really the only target I'm looking for in each race so far. So taking a little bit more risks on the traction now, but he's actually gained a little bit of time in that middle sector, which is a little bit disheartening. But I knew in this last sector, and mainly the first sector, I was definitely quite a bit stronger than him, and I was just so much more confident because there's no real heavy traction zones, there's no slow speed corners, it's all high speed, very rhythm-esque, where you need to just keep up the momentum going through the corners. Those are the corners that really do suit my driving style, and it was definitely clear in the lap time. That's why I was gaining most of my lap time coming off this last corner. Let's see if this is going to be a new fastest lap of the race, and it is. It's a 46.7. You can see we gained some time in that last sector, about 2 tenths in that last sector once again as well. But skipping on towards the end of the race, the story really was me just slowly starting to catch him, and we're going to stay on board from now until the end of the race, because honestly it was just me catching him by a tenth, sometimes losing a tenth for that, but it was very chop and change between us. We were very even on pace, and you can see the gap behind. KJ Gamer is still in third place, but look at the gap. You'll be able to see when he crosses the line. You can't even see him on the mini-map at this point. He hasn't pitted or anything. We're still on the same lap tyres, the same pit stop strategy. But you can see him really throw it in this first second. Look at the gap. It's 23 seconds. Or I think it might even be more than that. And you can see closing the gap down now, 2.8 seconds. So very strong in this first sector. And honestly, myself and Hawks, without disrespecting the other drivers, we were just on a different level in this race. We were driving very consistent, although you can see still struggling on the brakes. I was locking up quite a bit. I never felt completely confident, I'd say. I feel there's a lot more time in the way I'm driving, but I was getting better and better and just taking more risks on the traction, and that's really what you need to do. The wet driving is all about confidence. You need that, otherwise you're pretty much lost in terms of getting a quick lap time or anything at all. But going through here, once again, still maintaining that gap of 2.8 seconds, but just being a little bit more aggressive with the steering wheel. And I knew if I could get within, under 2 seconds, then that's when he might start feeling the heat quite a bit. But so far, I have to say, he's doing a fantastic job of absorbing this pressure, because I think I don't know if he's won a race in this league. I don't think he's won too many races in this. Of course, he's a very good, very fast driver, but having this kind of pressure when you're leading a race for quite a long amount of time, like I did in Singapore, it's very easy to make mistakes because you've got everything to lose and the guy behind has nothing to lose. And you can see the gap has gone down again even more. So 2 laps of this race to go, and this is where I'm just going to try and give it everything I could. So locking up ever so slightly. Still got a little bit of fuel, plenty of ERS to play with as well, because it's quite easy to save it in these conditions. You can see just taking more and more risk going through here. 6th gear, 5th gear, just trying to throw the car into here as much as possible. You can visually see we are definitely gaining some time, almost losing the car going through here, going green again, and now we are under 2 seconds. So it's always in that first sector we were just very, very strong. 3rd gear through here just to pick up a little bit more revs, get some good traction, put it into hot lap, and then put it back down to lean to try and get a nice launch off this. Leaving it in medium this time because I've got some ERS to play with, so just trying to get that little bit of extra power. And if I could just get as close to him as possible, because there's only about a lap and a half left in this race, and you can see the gap behind is just increasing by about a second or so a lap. So we're just, myself and Hawks, we're just driving so much faster than everyone else at this point. We're really are pushing it quite hard, keeping it in standard through here because I've still got a little bit of fuel to play with. And the gaps, again, he was very good in that middle sector. I rarely caught him in that middle sector. It's only really, most of it is in the first sector, and sometimes I gained in the last sector. So we'll be able to see crossing a line before starting the last lap what the gap actually is. Try and stay nice and tight to this because you want to be on the throttle as early as possible in these conditions because it could gain you so much time. And I can confirm I've only got 1 warning this race as well, and I didn't check how many penalties he had because honestly I like to try and win races not based on penalties. So we set the quickest lap of the race as well. So again, talking about the mental aspect, just showing that we do have the pace here. We've closed that gap from 4.4 seconds all the way down to under 2 seconds now, and the gap is still quite big, but you can make mistakes in this. I didn't have any idea of how many penalties he had at all, so just go give it everything going through this sector, really wrestling the car, going through these corners, going down to 4th gear just to get a little bit of extra rotation and going slightly down, but it's almost 1.5 seconds now, and the gap's almost 30 seconds behind. It's 27 seconds to KJ Gamer, and just using all the fuel, everything I have left. I've got plenty of power left for this, but still trying to get some good traction, putting it into low ERS, and you can see visually we are definitely closing in now. He might be tensing up a little bit because it is the last lap of the race, but unless he makes a mistake, it's looking like he's going to have a good chance of winning this race so far. But you never know what can happen in league racing. I've pretty much seen everything that's happened in league racing. I've led a race by 10 seconds before and disconnected on the last corner. Those kind of things can happen, so you have to keep pushing until the very end. Gained a little bit of time in the middle sector this time, and I've left it enriched because I want to use all of it towards the end of the race. There's AMS, I believe he's actually pitted for a new set of tyres as well, so only just slightly quicker. But yeah, everything in this last sector now. I don't know if he's got any penalties or anything at all, so I'm just going to try and definitely keep within 2 seconds because he might have a 2-second penalty, which sometimes does actually come up. So going on the exit for track, let's go through, actually locking up slightly. I really struggled in that corner. He goes and swerves across the line. What's it going to be? It's P2 this race, and 1.2 seconds in. We caught him by half a second at last lap, and too little too late. It was definitely a tough one, but it was a good experience for me. I think I needed a race like that where I kind of forced myself to really push myself in those conditions. And first of all, I have to say Hawks 100% deserved that race. He only got 2 warnings. He got them quite earlier on as well, so he's did pretty well to not get another one. He absorbed the pressure absolutely excellently and full credit to him, because I know I've been in that position myself quite a few times now, especially recently. It's not easy at all, especially in these conditions as well. So no credit away from him. He didn't make any mistakes. My mistake, could argue it might have made a difference, but I think he deserved to win today. He drove absolutely phenomenal. So GG to him. Hope you've enjoyed this one. Not much action, but just showing the intensity of what you need to do. Always needed to push yourself, and this is something I'm going to take with me to the next future races. And yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this one, and I'll catch you very soon. Peace.